Hello and welcome back to another edition of Talking Quack and Smack with TC Duck Club. I'm Skylar Ray.
I'm Keith Talbert.
I'm Rod Merritt.
Before we dive beak first into today's episode of Talking Quack and Smack, I'd like to remind you to make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the TC Duck Club podcast on YouTube and Spotify. Check out our shorts and everything we got going on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And I am extremely excited to be sitting next to one of these guys. The other guy just kind of barged in. We can't get rid of this guy. But this guy right here needs no introduction. It's Captain Rod Merritt of Eider Pro. He's here all the way from Maine. I don't know if he's a duck hunting guide or a professional fisherman or just, you know, I don't know what to tell you about this guy, but he definitely has the dream career for me and many other outdoor enthusiasts, and we're extremely excited to have him here at TC Duck Club headquarters for an episode of Talking Quack and Smack. So I guess without any further ado, I'd like to say welcome to Alabama and thanks for stopping by. And you'll have to excuse me and Keith. We're like two little kids in a candy store. You know, we're ready to hear some stories.
Ready to hear some stories. Well, with me, I'm looking over my shoulder at bass boats going by, and the weather's a lot nicer than it is in Maine right now. So I'm enjoying my time already. This is quite a nice place because I spend a good part of my life now down south in the off duck season, the off hunting season, chasing those greenfish, and so I always joke with the guys, because I got this Maine accent, one brought up there, that I spend so much time that I'm bilingual. I can interpret for my friends as come down from Maine with my friends from down south.
You know, when Miss Lisa come in last night, we were sitting there getting ready to eat supper, and I said, "Look, I'm sorry, don't take this the wrong way, but I love the way you talk." Yeah, and she just kind of laughed. But you know, the accent's different, and you talked about this Alabama weather. Trust me, brother, it's not always like this. This past week, we had waves crashing against the seawall and bouncing up in the yard or whatever. And I tell everybody that's not from around here, if you don't like the weather here right now, wait 30 minutes, it'll change. So.
Yeah. But you guys got 80-degree weather. I think last week at where the lodge is in Maine, we had snow. So
well, it's only been 80 degrees this week, I think, because we was in the 60s and 70s last couple of weeks. Rains every 4 days, so I've been trying to pour concrete at my house for a month, and anyway, the weather just has broke for us.
A couple of years ago, we try to go somewhere different every year, and a couple of years ago we went to decided we were going to go to Maine, and we went up to Maine and had my little boy with us, and you know, he was wanting to see snow, and I felt pretty sure that we was going to see snow, and it was just freak weather around Christmas time when we left, and we left Alabama and it was single digits, and it was colder in Alabama than it was in Maine. Mm-hmm. So we get to Maine, it snows in Alabama and doesn't snow in Maine. And I'm like, man, you don't talk about your all-time bad luck. I mean, it doesn't snow in Alabama or it doesn't snow in Maine and it snows in Alabama. I mean, he was just, you know, kind of let down, but we had a great hunting trip. And I would really like for you to describe, you know, since you're the Eider Pro, the Maine resident, if you will, like, I can't put into words, I don't have the vocabulary to tell our listeners how awesome the coast of Maine is. Like, it's just beautiful.
I take it for granted. I grew up there. My family settled in eastern Maine in the 1700s. They were some of the first settlers in the United States. So, you know, I have a long tradition, my family, of hunting and fishing and surviving in the most eastern point in the United States. But I take it all for granted. You know, the big tides that we have, you know, the largest in the world. You've heard of the Bay of Fundy, which is just in New Brunswick, which we border New Brunswick where we hunt, and they are the absolute biggest tides in the world, and we hunt right on the edge of that. So, you know, a 20-foot tide is nothing for us, and that's 20 foot every 6 hours up and down.
And so for our listeners, if you're in 20 foot of water at high tide, you're going to be on dirt in 6 hours.
So a lot of water's moving.
A lot of water's moving.
And so all those things that you learn about what I'll call normal duck hunting, what everybody else in the civilized world does. You go buy your little anchors and throw out your decoys. It's altogether different when the guys come the first time from areas where they duck hunt mallards and pintails and all the other good ducks. They see the gear that I have in some of our boats, and they're like, what is that for? With 20, 25 pound weights and big long lines, and one end of our line might be in 70 foot of water, and then the other end will be up on a ledge. So you really have to have some specialized gear and some knowledge of the area, because you can get in some places that's unhuntable. Yeah. It looks good when the tide's slack, between tides, when it's not going in, it's not going out. And if you happen to roll up there and you don't know it, and you go, oh yeah, this is a good spot, and then 20 minutes later it's ripping like a class 5 rapid. Wow. So yeah, it's an interesting place. It's a fun place. It's a dangerous place if you don't know what you're doing.
And there's so many different animals that you'll see in Maine. You have moose and you have whales.
Yeah.
And when we were up there, when you have a whale breach and you're in a layout boat, it's kind of, you've seen the movie Free Willy and all these people that's training orcas and this and that, but it's still an uneasy feeling when there's I know it's a mammal, but a fish, bigger than your boat,
bigger than the duck water,
Yeah. It just surfaces right behind you, and you're in like a 10-foot little, aluminum layout boat, and I'm like,
kind of reminds you.
Give me in the boat, but
kind of reminds you of Jonah.
Yeah,
well, fortunately for us, is right where the whales are and where we hunt. We don't cross paths that often. We see them all the time. We go out and have fun in the summertime. Lisa and I'll go out and have a picnic, and we might have 4 or 5 species of whales around us. Where you'll have finbacks, so it's like 100 ton, the second biggest whale, close to the blue whale side.
Wow.
Humpbacks. We have minke whales, and one of the guarded or protected whales are endangered, I guess would be the best way to, is the right whale. And we have one of the biggest population of right whales in the world right off our eastern point there. And so it's a lot of fun. But like when you duck hunting, the seals, they'll come up and play in your decoys. You talk about a guy from Iowa coming out there laying in a layout boat, and all of a sudden this seal pops up and looks him in the face. That's a new experience for him. And then last year we had some guys and some porpoise were playing right around them for a half an hour while they were hunting.
And that's such a cool deal. We had the same thing happen to us out in Washington State, and they just come up and it's like they're curious, like, hey, why are you in my living room? Why are you in my house? And they come up and look at you, and they'd go back down, and then they'd come up on the other side of you, and I'm like, please don't get in this boat. Please, I think you look so cute over there. That's the perfect place for you, about 20 yards away. Don't get any closer.
I'll tell you what they seem to be interested in is the decoys. They'll take a look at the layout boat, or if you're on a ledge, they'll look at you, and like I lay up there sometimes, they say, they're looking at you, but they'll go up and bump the decoys and like, what's the matter with this duck? And they've never bothered anything, and guys get worried with sending bird dogs if they bring their bird dogs along, but they're really nothing to worry about. I think, and I don't have the knowledge of it, I'm speaking out of turn, but I think the sea lions on the West Coast might be a little more aggressive, but our seals, we've never had any incidents where they try to get in the layout boat or bother a dog at all.
My dog Ella she's got a different gear than most dogs that I've ever been around, and she doesn't balk at a whole lot. Like, she doesn't. We got a guy fixing to try his luck at fishing right here.
Yeah, that.
But she doesn't balk at a whole lot. So, she's more worried about that duck getting away than she is any sea lion or seal or probably even shark or orca. But you know, she hadn't said anything about it.
She hadn't told you nothing.
She hadn't never voiced her complaint, so she's still just all go. But
let me tell a quick story about tourists. And I explained, and you've witnessed it a little bit personally. Some of the tourists, and I won't pick on any one state, but some of the tourists show up and they go down on the beach.
He means Alabama.
No, I didn't say Alabama. I did not say Alabama, but they'll show up with a nice SUV with the sea kayak on top or the boat on top, you know, some little boat, and it'll be a beautiful day, just like the lake behind us. And they'll go down and pull down on the beach, and they'll offload their boat, and they'll go for a paddle for a couple hours. Well, they come back and they call the police. Somebody stole my SUV, and they'll coming up. The police will come out and they'll go, "No, ma'am, your SUV is right there." And my SUV's gone. You wait about 6 hours, it'll be right there because the water just covered it and it's gone. It happens all the time. It happens all the time.
Oh my goodness. It's funny you say that about tourists. If you'll look over your left shoulder for me, you'll see the state boat ramp right over here.
Yeah.
See that state boat ramp?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so we're bass fishing, crappie fishing. We're fishing spring of the year, about a year ago now. Had a brand new Toyota Tundra.
I'm sorry.
And they changed the body style, changed the motor, you know.
Richard, I won't let him say your name.
Oh, my bad. That's nicely. That's nicely.
So, me and my buddy are over here eating Sunday dinner, and it's just uncharacteristically warm. You know, no wind, hot, probably 75, 80 degrees on a March day, which is kind of unheard of, especially middle of March, early March. And we're eating lunch after church one Sunday, and I said, "Hey, man, let's go get that boat." And he's got forward-facing sonar, side sonar. He's got TVs set up in this boat, you know, for fish. I mean, the screens on those fish finders are like bigger than the TV I had growing up. You know, we had one TV, and it's just massive. So, I was like, let's go catch some fish. So we go. And we're going to crappie fish, bass fish, just fish. We catch one fish all day long, and it's about 8-inch little striped bass, about like this. And I'm like, man, I can't believe we didn't just wear them out today. We tried trolling, flipping docks, we tried fishing ledges, we tried everything you can think of. We just couldn't make them bite. You could see them on the screen, they just wouldn't bite. So anyway, we go down to a local restaurant here and eat, and come back to the state docks. And, you know, sun's going down on our fishing adventure, and I get up there and I get in the truck, and I call, or my phone rings, and it's Ryan, my partner in TC Duck Club. And I'm answering the phone, "What's up? What's going on, man?" And Ryan's about half deaf, like legally, like he's got, you know, some hearing issues and had to have, you know, several surgeries on his ears. And so he talks real loud. So Ryan's talking over the Bluetooth, and Richard was putting up rods and putting his trolling motor and everything, you know, up and strapping everything down, putting the covers over his GPS and his fish finders and stuff, and just kind of, you know, getting everything tidied up in the boat. And I backed the boat in. I'm sitting at the boat ramp. Well, Ryan's talking in one ear, and Richard's saying something, and I don't know what he's saying. So I just throw the truck up and park. I open the door. Well, I didn't throw the truck up and park. I thought I did, but I didn't. And I just step out of the truck and turn, you know, step out and turn. Well, the door hits me in the back, boom, and knocks me forward. Knocks me down. I run and grab the door handle, and I jump in that thing like the Duke boys, like Dukes of Hazzard. Just jump in there. And when I get set down, the truck's still in reverse, and it's backing down the boat ramp. And I mash the brakes and get stopped, and water at this time is coming over my like waist and my legs. And it's hitting the dash and coming around the speedometer. And I throw the thing down into drive and just mat it. And if it would have been in four-wheel drive, it would have pulled out. But when I matted it, it spun and the back end raised up. And it goes out like past the pier. So now I'm coming out of it like the Duke boys. And I step on the door handle, like where the I step on the door, put one foot in the seat and step on the door handle and jump up on the hood. Well, it's still going out. And I'm trying to walk up the windshield and I can't grab anything. And I'm going down like Rose the Replicator on the Titanic. I'm just holding on to my little wooden door. And all of a sudden, some guy I've never seen before, I've never seen since. Because Richard couldn't get to me because the trailer was behind me. Yeah. This guy, like my saving grace, just comes in and pulls right up to me. And I didn't ask any questions. I let go of the top of the thing and I just grabbed him on top of his head and his shirt and everything. I nearly pulled him out of the boat and he's like, calm down. Just hold on to the boat. Just hold on. You know, we weren't 20 yards off, off the boat ramp. And he brings me up there and like my truck, the headlights are still on and it's just sunk right over there. Well, I'm like, how am I going to explain this to my wife? Well, I don't know. I mean, it's like they were just sitting there like a NASCAR pit crew. The rescue squad, the scuba divers, the dadgum fire department, police, everybody was there. Like before I get my feet on the boat ramp, the whole parking lot's full of folks. People coming in off the main road because that's a U.S. highway right there. So everybody's just pulling in and I'm sitting there like having to do the walk of shame and I'm just sitting here so embarrassed. I'm freezing to death. And anyway, my wife comes over there and she's like, oh my God, are you all right? Are you okay? Yeah, everything's fine except my confidence. It's a little bruised, but I mean, it was so embarrassing. But
my phone was ringing during this time, going, hey, have you talked to Skyler? And I said, not today. I said, talked to him yesterday. And he said, is he okay? And I said, no, he ain't never been okay. What do you mean, is he okay? He said, did he get hurt? And I said, well, now hang on. What do you mean, did he get hurt? And I said, I mean, there's a chance, yeah, because I mean, I know him. He can do most anything and get himself hurt. But I said, what are you talking about? Well, he just sunk his truck at the state boat ramp. I said, where at? Because there's another story in the Pacific Ocean where he sunk a boat. But anyway, that's a different, that's that Huron part. But anyway, but no, I mean, these phone calls just kept coming in. I'm getting text and phone calls about, is he okay? And then finally, because he couldn't answer his phone because it was in the truck. And so anyway, finally found out that my buddy was not dead. And
well, I mean, we just had so many close calls, and I don't know. I tell everybody, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. Right now, I'm a school teacher and an avid duck hunter, outdoorsman, if you will. But I have no idea what I want to do when I grow up. But when I get to be a big boy and finally mature, I have no idea what I'm going to do. But the good Lord has blessed us to be able to travel to many different places. I never dreamed that I'd get to see in person and meet some of the best people you can imagine.
Yeah.
And you're no different.
You brought something up and I have to tell a story if you don't mind.
Oh, no, that's what you're here for.
No. It's unrelated to duck hunting. It is a bird.
That don't matter.
It is a bird. But you mentioned Africa. Well, Lisa and I went to Africa this last August and went to a place called Wild Wildebeest Lodge and in South Africa. Great place, by the way. If you get a chance to go, I highly, highly recommend it. So we get over there, and she had things on her hit list for animals, and she got a trophy wildebeest, and she shot a trophy zebra because she wanted a zebra rug, and zebra meat is really good to eat.
Best meat I've ever had.
Best meat I've ever had too. I know it sounds strange to anybody that's never done it. You think horse, but it doesn't. It's believe me, it's like the best steak. You have tender and tasty. Well, so we were sitting around the campfire with other hunters at the lodge. Well, there was some boys from Texas, and they come in, and when everybody comes in, they have the skinning area and the freezers and stuff, and with the coolers, the walk-in coolers where they put the meat. So you always walk out to see what they got, or meet them at the campfire that's going all the time, and sitting around having something to drink or eat and telling their stories. So the boys from Texas came in, and Lisa asked what they'd shot. One of them said an ostrich. So it was good, right? But she says, well, what else you gonna do with it? You gonna mount it? And he says, no. He says, I'm gonna have the skin tanned, and then I'm gonna have boots made and belts made. You get a purse made or whatever. And she says, well, how many can you get out of a full-grown ostrich? She says, well, a couple pair of boots and a couple belts, maybe a purse. And she goes, really? So she looks at me and she says, tomorrow I'm going ostrich hunting. So the next day we headed out. We told PH that we were going to go ostrich hunting. So we get in there, we're riding along the savannah there, and here's a group of ostriches. Well, since she wasn't going to mount it, a male or female didn't matter. And the female was a nice big one. He says, that's a big female. That'd be a good one to take right there. It's an older female, and you get a lot of leather out of it. So spotting these things there like 150 yards away, the PH said, that's a good bird. And you get a lot of leather out of it. And so she took aim with, I think we were using a 300 Win Mag.
Yeah.
It was suppressed and no recoil with that suppressor. It was nice.
Wow.
And so she makes a shot and the bird goes down. And because we waited till the bird turned right back to, and it made that Texas heart shot, you know. And so it was perfect. And so it went down, flattened it right out. And the PH was like, that's amazing, because we used to chase these things. It's hard to get a good shot, you know, if you don't know exactly where to aim. Congratulate her. So we start walking out to get the bird and take some pictures, and we get about halfway out there and the bird's head comes up. Lisa looks to him and says, well, how do you finish him off? And he says, well, the best way to do it is take a knife right to the base of the skull. She goes, give me the knife. He looks at me and he says, you're kidding me. And she says, no, it's my bird, I'm gonna kill it. And so she went out and did it. That night, we were telling the story around the campfire, and all the men were like, have you ever heard the story of Lorena Bobbitt? you keep one eye open, buddy.
Oh, my
so she
word.
looks sweet, but you can put a knife in her hand, you want to be careful.
Hey, I saw her last night carving on that steak. She knew what she was doing.
Yeah, when we went to Africa, we went with Tomoga Safaris.
Yep.
And made buddies with an old boy over there named AJ. And AJ's been over here and everything, but my wife is an indoor girl by my definition. She's athletic and, she works out all the time, but she's just not a hunter. She's tiny and she gets cold, and, if she's not comfortable, nobody's comfortable. The old saying, mom ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Well, hunting's just not her thing. And exercising is not my thing. So we don't share the passion for those two things together. But anyway, we go to Africa, and she'd never shot a pellet rifle, BB gun, nothing. And I didn't want her to shoot because I was afraid, one, the recoil would scare her, the sound would scare her, and she'd start jerking, wouldn't be able to hit anything. And I just didn't bring it up. So it comes her time to shoot, and she just, literally, it's probably 400, 450 yard shot out of wildebeest.
Wow.
And he says, all right, Jennifer, it is your turn. And Jennifer's like, me? Oh, no, somebody just shoot mine. I said, you got to get up and go. Because we had 16 animals to kill. And, there was 4 of us, so we just divided, the 4 animals between us. And Jennifer gets up there and just, first shot, dirt nap. Like you had a truck tied to its legs and it just falls over. And I'm like, there is no way that she's just killed this thing at 450, 500 yards away. Well, anyway, we kill all of our animals and everything, and my wife had a ball. And if I would have told her, hey, we're going to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, we're going to eat breakfast, we're going to ride in the back of the truck and, ride through the wilderness all day long for 5 days, I couldn't have got her to go. Like, she wouldn't have went. But, you go over the top of that hill and there's ostriches running around. There's, wildebeest and Cape buffalo and
Exactly.
giraffes and zebras and sables and all kind of stuff. I sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't know which one's which. I know zebra has stripes and giraffe has spots, but, there's animals over there. He'd pull up and he'd say, does anyone want to shoot a blah, blah, blah? And I was like, is that on the list? And he was like, no. I said, keep driving. You know, I mean, we didn't care. But anyway,
I will tell you that, like your wife, Lisa, the first day we got there, we had to prove that we could shoot. And so they took us out the range. Well, all the guys that showed up that day, we all went at the same time. And they had a nice shooting range. So everybody's standing around. They set the rifle up. They say, who's going to shoot first? I said, Lisa's going to. So she steps up there. She looks at me. She steps up there. And I knew what she was going to do. She put it right in the X. All these guys got the binoculars and they're looking, all these hunters, and they're looking, puts it right in the X. And you see all of them simultaneously go.
yeah.
Because they know they had to follow her.
Oh, yeah.
It was every single one of them.
That a girl.
She just walked back. She had no idea. And she says, why'd you do that? And I said, watch this. And they're going, oh, man, I know she's going to about shot me.
So my wife is the same thing. I mean, she got all 4 of her animals, and none of them ever walked a step. Just bam, 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 bam. All 4 of them just dirt now. And, you know, she had a ball, and we had, you know, like a day left, and, you know, we had already killed 2 additional animals. And, you know, every day I kept asking this guy, I was like, hey, we want to kill those ducks. You know, even from the first day on, I was like, look, I'll trade out all my 4 animals just to get set on that little swamp right there and kill those ducks. So there ain't no crocodiles in it, are there? He's like, no crocodiles in there, and it's too cold for snakes. He said, well, we don't duck hunt. I said, well, we don't tip. He said, you know, and we just kind of razzed him and everything. And once we killed our animals, you know, ahead of schedule, I was like, hey, man, you know, look, I don't know like what you normally do. I said, but, you know, we'll pay to shoot those ducks. He was like, oh, no, man, y'all are good guys. You know, you don't owe me anything. He said, I'll just take you. So anyway, he said, did you guys bring shotguns? I was like, no, we didn't bring shotguns. I was like, well, we need a shotgun. I said, we'll share a shotgun. We just want to kill 1 bird apiece of each species.
Of this species. Yeah.
And he was like, I'll get you a shotgun. So he goes up to the lodge, and he gets up to the lodge, and we're thinking like Benelli, Remington, Brown, and something like this. He comes back with the Arnold Schwarzenegger home defense shotgun. The magazine, or the tube was as long as the barrel. It would hold, and you know, we're shooting high brass 6-shot lead, and you know, we fill it full, and I'm like,
this ought to be interesting.
I said, this is going to be crazy.
Rifle sights on it.
Yeah, I mean, it had rifle sights on it, and it didn't have a butt stock. It had a pistol grip.
Oh no!
So it's literally like a home defense shotgun. Like, I'll be back, you know. So anyway, we're going to jump shoot these little old ponds, these little satellite ponds, before we get into the big pond. So Ryan was with me, and we're back there in the back of the truck playing paper, rock, scissors over who's going to get to shoot. Well, of course, he wins. And Ryan gets out there, and you would have thought it was a Benelli with a switch on it. Like, Ryan, like, we get walking up through there, and like we're creeping down through there, and the guy says, okay, I think we can shoot them. And Ryan said, you just tell me when you want me to shoot. And he said, shoot. Ryan stands up and goes, doo, 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 doo. And he's just pumping the shells out there. And we get done, and there's ducks all over this pond. I mean, they're dead everywhere. And he said, you Alabama boys, you really like to shoot, don't you? And anyway, man, we have just strode his ducks all over the pond. He's like, now how do we get them? Well, it's like 50 degrees, so I just walked off out through there and got them. And it's like thigh-deep water. And anyway, we go to the next pond, same thing. Just, I'm cutting them down, just crushing them. And there's ducks dead everywhere. And we get over there on this pond, and there's Egyptian geese out there, and we're like belly crawling. So Ryan comes up over the top of this hill, boom, and hands it to me. And I throw it forward and go, boom, and shoot it with a pistol grip. We doubled up on so we had worked it out. Like, he shoots, clicks it, pitches it to me. I pull it forward and go, boom, and shot it with a pistol grip. But man,
That's that trick shooting stuff.
Man, it was awesome. And he said,
So if you come up to me, I expect you guys to do that. Okay?
"Oh no, that's complete luck now. It's complete luck." But that guy asked us. He said, "You watch a bunch of cowboy movies, eh? Are you Alabama boys? You were cowboys?" And I said, "No, we're rednecks." And anyway, he ended up being such a good guy, and there's good folks everywhere, and he's such a good guy, and we had such a good time, and like you said, Africa couldn't be more different than America.
That's right.
It's on the other side of the world.
If you don't mind me doing a plug for something that Lisa and I told you about that we've been involved in, and just but when we were over there, there was a school that the people at the lodge have been supporting as far as food, because a lot of the kids over there that go to this really poor school, they get 1 or 2 meals a day. That's all they get. A week. Sorry, a week. Wow. That's all they get, and they're malnourished, more or less. All the food from the lodge itself goes towards these kids, which is a lot of meat, and they distribute it amongst the community and the Native Africans there. And so this school, who is like schools in the United States supported by the government, they wouldn't allow us to feed them every day. The school started out with like 50 kids or less, and now there's 300 kids going there because we're agreeing, and we put Mike, the owner of Wild Wildebeest, had his staff put a commercial kitchen in. They didn't even have running water.
Sure.
Okay, put a commercial kitchen and all this. Well, there's rules in there that you can only feed the kids so many days a week, and so they need to be fed every day. So right next to it, there was some property with a building. There was a church that no longer was operating. The building was in good shape, so a bunch of us got together and said, if we buy the church, can we fix it up and feed the kids there? Because it's not part of the school,
right?
And the government was fine with it. So we're well on our way. We got most of the money to buy the land in the church. All the food's going to be provided by Wild Wildebeest, and they provide vegetables, and they're going to do like a program where they teach kids some trades too there.
Oh, awesome.
And so we've been involved in raising a bunch of money for that for the last few months. It's been very successful. People have been generous, like you would believe. The lobster fishermen in Maine, the scallop draggers, they donated stuff.
Sure.
And we had brought stuff to Pennsylvania to do stuff. We went out to Missouri and did a fundraiser. The farmers out there were fabulous. And so anybody that is interested in helping us with that, just contact me right through eiderpro.com, and we'll get the money straight to it. There's no profit being taken out of it. There's no paid employees. There's nothing. The money's going straight to this program. So just if you have any interest in helping somebody, knowing the money's going to a good cause, and this is a good thing to do, and it goes back to just helping people. It don't matter who they are.
That's right.
And they're not Americans, they're not from this country, but they're little kids that need help. And what we want to do is not just give them immediate help. We want it to help them along to be successful and help for another generation. And Mike at Wild Wildebeest has sent a couple of girls off to college now.
Okay.
That did well in the school. So it's growing, and so it's kind of a cool thing to be involved in. We got a lot of problems in the United States. It just happened to be something that hit Lisa and I in the heart, and we decided to take part in it. Just wanted to kind of throw that plug in, if you guys don't mind.
No, not a problem, man. I don't see a problem with it. And of course, TC Duck Club has been in part of. We volunteer with a group called Kids Outdoors. Nice. And Kids Outdoors, KIDZ outdoors.org, they take care of kids that has cancer or some type of disability or so on and so forth. And they're based, Carol and Rick Clark is the founder of it. They're based out of Hueytown, which is in Birmingham area. and again, no profit. It's all nonprofit as well. So I have been volunteering on their youth duck hunts. Youth deer hunts every year in Alabama during deer season. And Skylar and Ryan joined me last year, and they done a duck hunt. They auctioned off a duck hunt here on the TC Duck Club property, and done to raise money for kids outdoors. So.
We need to talk, because Lisa and I might be able to be involved in that a little bit.
Oh, we'd love to.
So we put a link up. Maybe we could help something with something else too. We'll talk, because that's the kind of causes that we have a passion for.
Yeah,
no,
it's like having family. When we got here, you and I started talking on the phone a few months ago, and with my schedule, it made it tough for us to connect until now. Thank God I did, because
I know
you end up with a lot of acquaintances in life, and though our friendship has a short span so far, I expect it to be a lifelong friendship.
Well, we're already planning a trip to Maine to blueberry pie and go whale watching.
And whale watching and eating lobsters. I gotta tell.
You got us.
I gotta
Talk me into blueberry pie and lobster.
I gotta tell a couple stories. One story, and these are one kind of duck hunting, and that speech that I give everybody, I talk about the tides. And I talk about layout hunting and how we do it, and I talk about ledge hunting and how we do it, and I talk about big boat hunting and how we do it, and so then we tell about how things are going to go the 3 days, and you're going to have homemade pies that Lisa's made. She's kind of almost world famous now for her berry pies, her double crusted blueberries and raspberry pies, and
well, now hold on just a second, but let me stop you right there. Keith's got a face for radio.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, we hire Keith not because of his looks or his personality, but because his wife makes a good banana pudding. And
Absolutely.
Like I told you last night, since we've started the podcast, we've had a grand total of 0 banana puddings.
I know.
So Keith's job
is he on probation?
No.
He's fixing to have to be replaced.
We'll have that fixed.
But now, so if you make a blueberry pie, I'm telling you, I'll be halfway to Pennsylvania before I know I left the house. There ain't nothing for me to drive.
And I think you heard the story last night. We had one of the most wealthy men on earth at our lodge, and one of the 500. And he's been there twice. Well, the first time he came for the duck hunting. He informed me the second time he came, he didn't come for the duck hunting, he came for the pie.
So, Captain Rod, what all does Eider Pro offer? What all do y'all have other than sea ducks?
They've got blueberry pie and lobster. What else you want?
I really can't think of anything that's any better. It'd just be cream of the icing on the cake, I guess you could say.
What we do is, because what we're known for is the Eiders. People, it's a bucket list bird. Not a lot of places have them in the quantity we have them, because we're right where the U.S. and Canada come together on the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay.
So we get those birds that haven't been molested. The first flight birds, we have local birds, so we have them throughout the whole season. They actually nest right there also. So we get both, and which keeps a pretty consistent amount of birds for us. But over the years, the sea duck hunting has changed. When I was young, it was all about big giant piles of birds. The limits were massive. Now the average hunter is more of a trophy hunter. He's looking for getting one of this species, one of that species, and the sea duck limits are combined in a way. So if you kill a different species, it's easier, because you're only allowed 3 of any one species, and so you get to shoot a few more if you're willing to. But we've got a lot of trophy hunters, a lot of guys that want drakes of each species, and so we've got a real good population, a strong population of black ducks, and not all the flyways. Your chances, like if you went out here, what's the odds you're going to get a black duck on a given day.
You can't say, hey, I'm going to leave and I'm going to go target black ducks. If they come in, they'll normally be with gadwalls or mallards or pintails or something. But
if we go black duck in Washington County, nearly 100% of the time you're going to kill a black duck.
Well, just drop me the pin and
we need the eggs on that.
we got to get that on camera.
Well, sure.
You know, for the podcast, for validation.
Validation. That's right. So the black ducks, we have all 3 species of your mergansers, which that comes out of my mouth hard because for years, guys shot mergansers because they happen to fly by because they're not the best
trash bird.
And now everybody wants the 41. And what was funny is all of us guides and all of us avid hunters, we shot them because they happened to be there, but we didn't pay attention to why. We didn't have decoys for them. There's no calls for them. So when it came time that people were calling me up and going, I need a red-breasted merganser. I'm like, yeah, we got them. And then all of a sudden I hang up. This is years ago. And I go, well, where the hell am I going to take them? And how am I going to hunt them? And so it took me a few years and a lot of trial and error, and now I got it pretty well down. So certain times of the year for certain ones, if a guy wants to come, his probability is pretty high. Late in the year is really good because we have.
What's your seasons like? What year? What months?
Well, our regular season, we have a week early season, but our regular season, which is our primary season for most of those species, mostly sea duck species, is the middle of November to the first week in January.
Yeah.
And so, but one of the things that's changed too is commercial mussel dragging has made the amount of mussels, as we used to have these dense mussel beds where, there'll be 3 acres of mussels, and you'll have 400 eiders on that mussel bed diving and eating. Well, they've dragged those up. There's still mussels, but they're spread out. But simultaneously in my lifetime, we have an invasive species called the green crab. It came from Asia. It wasn't native to North America, East Coast, and so it's gone crazy. And it's not good for the ecosystem overall. If we could get rid of them, it'd probably be better because they damage the clams, which is a big industry in itself. But the good news from a sea duck hunter is eiders love them. But the difference is the old time hunters look and they don't see 400 eiders in one clump, which is fun to look at, but you know how it is when you got a great big giant flock, when they take off,
they're gone.
They're gone. Well, now eiders are spread in areas that traditionally didn't have any eiders, and so we've located a lot of places. We tried to figure out what the common denominator is these green crabs, and so find the green crabs, you find the eiders. And you hunt them more like you do other ducks in the fact that you'll have smaller groups, which is ideal for gunning. Because you're not going to
pick out mature birds.
You can pick up mature birds. You're not going to have one flock come in and the hunt's over, like sometimes snow geese are. You get this big rally and then nothing. So and the other thing about hunting seabirds in the coast of Maine, and I watch the guys, they're fidgeting and they're nervous. And I try to tell them this the first night it isn't about sunrise. Okay, it's about the tide. So there'll be a day when we're going to a certain spot where I know the birds are feeding. What time are we going to be up, Cap? 2 hours before daylight, 3 hours before daylight. I go, no, we're going to get up right after daylight. Lisa's going to have some nice breakfast for us, and we're going to go. And they're looking at me like, what is he doing? But it's just the combination of what they're feeding on right then and the location I want to take them. The tide will be perfect so the tide is everything. Now, having said that, most of the time we're up before daylight and we're hunting at the same time you would if you were mallard hunting. But there'll be days when we might not start hunting until 9-10 o'clock.
So like we talked about this earlier, and
we moose hunt too, by the way.
you know, we talked about this earlier with, you know, lobster. You think of Maine, you think of eiders, and you think of lobster. But I'm kind of wanting to hear, you know, how you cook these lobsters. Like you've got me on lobster.
Well, I'll take one step back and I'll kind of tell the menu just to kind of see if we can get you started a little bit.
I may
get ready.
I may have to get in the truck with them.
I can't just.
Lisa always got a few hors d'oeuvres out there.
Stretch before.
Lisa has some hors d'oeuvres out there usually, so guys, you know, snacking in between meals. But in the evening, like the first night you get there, depending on who it is and what's going on, a lot of guys fly in and you know, you don't know exactly when the flight's going to come and everything. So she'll have an all meat lasagna where she has a whole bunch of different cheeses and meats and stuff, because the reason why we choose that night to do that is because you can heat it up, and if a guy doesn't get in till 11 o'clock at night and he's still hungry and he's traveled all day and he couldn't eat, he could have something to eat. So yeah, but it's a big hit. Every time she goes to take it off the menu, they go, no, don't take that off the menu. It's real good. But and then one night we have a like a haddock dish, which a haddock is a very white, flaky ocean fish, and she does a layer of crab meat over the top of that, and all the stuff comes with salads and all the fixings that go along with it, homemade breads, and then for dessert every night you'll have some type of pie, unless you ask for something special. And like I said, we do you know, on request things too. If a guy's allergic, if they really have, well, and I can tell you a story a little later about a special request, and she called the guy's mama in Alabama, wasn't it? Because he wanted his favorite dish, and it was his birthday or something, and was banana pudding. Okay.
Hey, could have been calling the cold.
Could have been.
And she asked one of the other guys to give his wife's name so she could get his mama's telephone number. She called his mama while he was out cooking, out hunting. She talked to the mama in Alabama, cooked banana pudding, and that's what he had for dessert that night. And so this is kind of, now getting back to the lobsters, which was your question. Sorry, I went way around the corner.
No, you're good.
But we love banana pudding. We love calories. But I've got two buddies, Richard King and Keith Talbert, and their wives cook world-renowned banana pudding. If they charge what it was worth, you'd have to mortgage your house to get a bowl of it. I mean, it's awesome.
I tell you what, I've loved all this southern cooking, but the lobsters, so we get them right directly from the ocean. I've had guys tell that very, very wealthy, well-to-do people, and said the best lobster they ever had. It's an unfair advantage because you've got, you know, if I go to Florida and I pick an orange off a tree and eat it, or I go up in Washington County, Maine, and I get one that's been sitting in a warehouse that's on a grocery store. It ain't going to taste the same as that one. No. Well, when I take it freshly out of the ocean, literally hours before you're putting it in your mouth,
that cold water too,
it's still alive. You're going to handle it. It's all active and alive. And we cook it right there for you at the lodge. And I'll show you. If you show up, I'm going to show you every detail how to do it. It's not hard. It's not hard.
You know, I tell everybody there is a country song for every situation, and the one for this situation would be "I'm Already There."
Yeah,
I'm already there.
But and I'm going to tell you the other thing, and I kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit last night to you. In the summertime, we have our main version of a boil. Okay, and it isn't a boil, but it's the celebration and the foods.
In the summertime here, we have bologna sandwiches.
Yeah, we'll get 100, 200 pounds of lobsters, and we'll build a big bonfire on the beach. You know, maybe an island or on the beach on the ocean. And then once it burns down to coals, we'll take and throw a bit of pitchfork, and you take the seaweed and you put right over the bed of coals.
I've seen this.
Then you take your lobsters and you throw them on there. You throw your corn on the cob on there. You throw your potatoes on there. Whatever you're going to cook, crabs, your clams.
Amen.
And then you take another layer of seaweed, all wet, put it on top of it, and then you take a canvas. Here's the secret. Dip it in the ocean, and you pull it right over the whole thing. That contains that steam. You let that steam. Every once in a while, take a pitchfork, check it. When your lobsters are all nice and orange, and your little clams are opened up, then you flip that off there, and flip all that seaweed off, and you pile that into. And there might be like a little wooden skiff sitting there with some crushed ice and a bunch of adult beverages in it.
How am I going to get a pitchfork in my check-in luggage or carry-on?
They got an Ace Hardware,
Yeah,
Home Depot.
We'll provide the pitchfork free of charge.
Yeah, I can shovel I don't like to, but I know how to. And I can shovel to eat lobster.
When there's a wheel, there's a way. That was the wheel, and I got the way.
Now some of your friends have told me that you shoveled something, but it wasn't anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Must have been Ryan last night. I don't know who that was, but anyway.
Yeah, we try to make the world smell better around here this time of year.
There you go.
So, look,
That's awesome.
Again, we're just two good old country boys, and the guys we hang out with and associate with. Some of them you met last night. We're just excited to get to go places and see something new and get to meet people like you and your wife and we can't tell you, just from the bottom of our heart, we can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming in town, and you're welcome here. If you get tired of eating lobster and blueberry pie, you can come eat a bologna sandwich and jump off the
homegrown tomato and some banana pudding.
And for our listening audience, he was asking, could we stop the show or conclude the episode with him doing a backflip off the pier? And I told him, there's no way we shouldn't. So I don't know what the finale is going to be, but we really do.
Probably 20 years ago, I would have done it. But right now,
It's a lot further down now than 20 years ago.
Well, it's not the distance down.
The ball won't hurt you a bit. It's a sudden stop at the bottom that'll get you.
Exactly.
But the fact that y'all were willing to come in, I know you're fishing in a professional bass tournament tomorrow, and you got a ton of stuff going on in Maine, and you're a long way from home. But the fact that you were willing to come in and sit down with us, I can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
If you do come to Maine in the summertime, we're going to do the whales. We're going to do all that stuff. We're going to do the lobster cookout, but we'll also take a day and go out with the Old Town kayaks, and we'll hit big old smallmouth. We got a ton of them. If we don't catch 100, I'll eat my hat. 100 in a day. I'll eat my hat right in front of you.
What months? What are the times?
As far as the whales, July and August the best.
All right, well, it'll have to be July.
And if you
because I start football in August. So.
Hey, we can leave
vacation, baby.
We can leave Minnesota and head on to Maine. We can just fly across the top.
Captain Jamie Robinson works with me, and he'll take you out and show you puffins, because we have a puffin rookery right there.
Yeah, I know what that is. Yeah.
And just it's kind of cool. The wives would like to see
Charlie
that.
Puffin.
Yeah, you'll be able to go right up there and land on the boat, and so it's just something different to do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, see the lighthouses all.
That's awesome. And you mentioned the easternmost part. We got to go see that while we're there.
the Quaddy Head Lighthouse. That's the easternmost point in the United States.
We're there.
You're going to be up on the other end of Route 1 from Key West. Okay, and so but the easternmost point in the United States is Quaddy Head, and we can take you right there to the lighthouse. In fact, you'll probably see some eiders right there on the rocks.
Hey, I tell you what, I'll make sure Nicole brings the recipe, and then of the banana pudding.
Oh,
and then while we're cooking while we're helping shovel seaweed on this lobster boil, Nicole and Lisa can compare recipes, and let Nicole can show Lisa how to make.
I can foresee a diabetic coma in my future.
Well, you guys keep getting me eating like that. I'm gonna have to have a kayak under each cheek of my butt to float me.
Just get a bigger boat.
I'm gonna need a bigger boat. I'm gonna call
Duck Water.
Hey, you're gonna have to make one about 25 feet long.
Duck Water.
That's right.
Oh, I never talked about the duck water, did I? the little addition I did this past year. Or
No.
Well, let's go ahead and add that in there. I mean, well, I can shorten this video to make it fit our
we'll
thing.
edit it, make it, we can cut and splice or whatever.
The equipment we got, because we've been, I did make a little mention of it earlier, but we've got that, the first, hull number 1, 32-foot deck water, the first one that was ever made. When I called Steve up at Deckwater, I said, I want a boat, Steve. And he goes, yeah, which one do you want? I says, I understand that you've got a blueprint all drawn up for a 32-footer, big paws. Yeah, I do. And he goes, I go, you ready to build it? He goes, I am. I says, let's do it. And so he and I negotiated how I wanted it, did some minor design work on what I wanted. And I'm telling you, we had a 350 on it when it came, wonderful setup, went really nice. But you know, I'm a little bit red ink myself, and so when I decided to upgrade a few years this last year to a 450, I want to tell you that baby will roll. And we have lobster boats. Captain Jamie has 2 lobster boats that works with me during the season. We have smaller boats for skinny water. So we got all the toys. We got lots of layout boats. A bunch of doubles, singles. We can do any combination you want.
You know, and you know, you mentioned, you know, duck water and wanting to go fast and this and that. Like, that's why we started a podcast, is because I told the story of me driving my duck boat to the Bahamas and getting stopped by the Coast Guard and, you know, asking us if we had square grouper. Well, I didn't know what square grouper was, so I just told him, you know, we got some kind of grouper, and he said, square grouper's cocaine. I said, Lord, no, the only square grouper, the only Coke we got is in 12-ounce cans. It's right there, you can have it all. So anyway, that got like millions of views, and I'm thinking, well, I've got tons of stories like this, you know, and you know, we started this little podcast or whatever, but you seem to have a wife that's willing to tolerate your hobbies, kind of like mine. So you know, you better keep her. And I'm telling you right now, the best vacation I've ever done was to drive that duck water, you know, trailer it down to Miami from Alabama. And you know, if the weather's not great, you're already at one of the most beautiful beaches in the country. Just go out in Miami and sit on the beach. Next day, the water's fine, go. And you know, we went over, and it was just as slick as this lake. I mean, it was just beautiful, and it's not but about a 50-mile ride. And I'm telling you, it's the best vacation, and some of the most humble, most unbelievably awesome people. And there's one old boy over there that we made buddies with. You know, I don't ever meet a stranger. I promise you, he can hold his breath for 5-6 minutes. I promise you, he can swim to that channel marker, or there ain't a pine tree in Georgia. Like, I mean, he can hold his breath longer than any human I've ever seen.
They may get a look at a 32 deck water with a 450, because you and I have talked about this. I don't think I'm gonna have to twist Lisa's arm.
Look, I'm telling you, it's the bet.
Bimini's beautiful.
Before y'all get into the grind of what, you know, water season is for y'all, and I can only imagine, you know, all the headaches and all the preparation that goes into that. I'm telling you, come down here, you know, spend a night halfway, come on down, spend a night at our place, going down from here to Miami, it's about 12 hours, so you can do it. And then I would say leave at lunch or maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon and drive during the night to meet traffic, or to beat traffic, and then that will put you there just right before sunrise. And you know, it's probably 2-mile journey from the actual haul over boat ramp to where you come out on wavy boats, and then the sun's just starting to come up, and you just drive directly towards the sun, and that's where Bimini is. And it's like swimming in blue Gatorade. And you want to talk about lobster? There's more lobster in Bimini. They're like fire ants. They're just all over the ocean floor, and it's beautiful. But again, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you stopping by and taking time to sit down and tell some stories with us. And
hey, pal,
thank you so much.
Our next podcast will be at your place.
Hey, we ought to do it. We'll do it. We'll sit right outside of Quality Heads with the lighthouse in the background.
All right, that's awesome. That's awesome.
We're not scared to do an on location podcast, are we, Paul?
No, high blueberry pie and lobster, we will travel. I run through diesel fuel. I love to see how fast I can burn it. So, I can either plane, train, or automobile, we can be there. I might even walk if I get hungry enough. Well, I sure would hate to.
The young boy that was on American Idol.
Will Mosley?
No, he ain't no boy. He's
a grown man.
He's a grown man. That young fella from Louisiana.
Lane Hardy.
Lane Hardy. I remember his initial audition. And they asked him what he did in his small towns, and he says, "Burn gas."
That's right. Oh yeah, that was his first run through. Yeah,
that's first run through. So you have a lot of similarities.
We have burned our fair share of gas, and we've got a lot of, I wouldn't say strange, because it's kind of just the way we live, but they're unique hobbies, and. We've got a bunch of stories, and I'm sure that we could find something to talk to you about up there.
I got a ton of stories I can tell you about things that I did and things that some of my hunters have done, but I can tell you some good ones.
Well, we can get your other captains and have everybody else on, and way we can get the nitty gritty. The good ones.
Okay, let me tell this story, because this one might make the show.
All
Okay.
right.
During COVID, things changed along coast of Maine.
Yeah.
And this is an absolute true story. So the coast of Maine is Maine is known as vacation land. Right on our license plate says vacation land. That truck over there says vacation land. And so for the last 100 years, back when the Rockefellers and long before air conditioning, the reason why they went there is because it's nice weather in the summertime. July and August, when it's blistering hot everywhere else, it's about 70, 75 degrees, nice breeze. I mean, it's perfect, right? So we still have a huge population of what we call summer people. And they're normally from the big cities, okay? But they're just there during the summer. And they built big mansions along the shores. And generally they're nice people, okay? They don't get involved in the politics. They're just there to enjoy the summer. Well, come COVID, a whole bunch of them decided they're going to live there. Well, they'd never been there during duck season. So opening day of duck season, I set up in a place that my family has hunted for generations.
Okay.
Layout boats out in the ocean in front of the place. Not close, facing the ocean. So you're firing away. You're not right up against the bank. They were hundreds of yards away, way up on the hill. Well, come daylight, my hunters opened up. I mean, they were just cutting it onto it. Well, we gathered up the birds, started back. Well, the hunters have radios. And so they said, "Hey, Cap, there's a woman down here screaming at us, behind us." Back there. They said, "Can't tell what she's saying, but she is hollering her head off." I says, "I'll be right in." So we swung in, and Mike, my guide that was with me, he's a really nice guy, comical as hell. So he's in the bow of the boat, and I'm running the duck water from the helm way in the aft end. So I pull in, and Mike says, "Ma'am, what's the matter?" And she says, "Why are you killing my ducks?" And he says, "Ma'am, so we try to reason with her and try to be nice and de-escalate the situation. She wasn't having it. And so Mike says, "Where are you from?" "Right here." And you could tell she had an accent, and I won't pick on a state, but yeah, initials are New York. So she was from a metropolitan area, a fairly large metropolitan area, and so she was screaming and carrying on. So finally we'd had enough, and Mike, just as calm as could be, says, "Ma'am, settle down." He says, "We're trying to help you. We're only killing the ducks with COVID." She stomped up over the bank. We never saw her again. True story.
But I don't see why people get so tore up about things like that, but people do. I mean,
and my friends from New York Forgive me. I wasn't picking on all of you. There's just a few.
They know who you're talking about.
Okay.
Because I've got some buddies on Long Island, and they make fun of the people from New York.
Exactly.
And we've got some people in Alabama that we make fun of.
Oh,
too.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, so don't.
I'm sure my neighbors make fun of me, so,
Yeah.
I had to add that one in. That's
No,
right.
not at all.
So you talk about New York. I've got one for you, and this will tie this in. It'll be up to him to edit it. So you talk about New York. We blow into New York coming from Maine, Massachusetts, and we blow into New York. And we get into Long Island, and it's let's just say 7:30 at night, and we pull up to a gas station. There's an old guy standing there in a Maserati pumping gas, and we pull up in a Chevrolet pickup truck with dogs in the back and boat hooked to us and dressed in camouflage and mud on the tires. And I said, "Hey, Parts, where's the best steak joint around here?" He said, "What'd you say?" And I said, "Where's the best steak joint around here?" He said, "What do you mean steak joint?" And I said, "Like restaurant, like where's the best restaurant around here?" He said, "Oh, I can tell you're not from around here. Go to the top of the hill, man. It's right up there on the right. It's called Hendrick's Steakhouse." And we're thinking like it's like a mom and pop restaurant, We get up there and there's no cars in the parking lot. I'm like, how is this the best place? I mean, ain't nobody here. Saturday night, 7 o'clock, nobody here. So we just pull in, get out. And we go walk into the front door, and there's two guys sitting there in white tuxedos. I'm like, oh man, they ballet here.
Yeah.
So anyway, we just left our truck there. I said, truck all right? And he said, "Yeah, man, go on in." So we go in, we walk in, and he said, "Can I take your coat?" I said, No, I'm gonna wear mine. And we've got on sick gradient pants and rubber boots and a camouflage jacket, and I didn't want to give him my jacket because I had shotgun shells in it.
Yeah.
And pocket knives and all kinds of stuff, flashlights, and I had my inventory in it. So we walk in, and everybody there looked like the film Casino. You ever seen the movie Casino? They've got their hair slicked back, and they've got all the women there were beautiful. They had big hair and jewelry, and I'm like, my God, we're out of place. I can't even believe they let us in, And
Money's green.
yeah, money's green. And the food at Hendrick's Steakhouse, I'm going to plug Hendrick's Steakhouse, Long Island. Check it out. Go there. Best steak I've ever had anywhere. Awesome place. Great service. Great people. Awesome restaurant. Back to the story.
And you can wear Sitka.
And you can wear your camouflage. So we get in there, and again, these ladies had on evening dresses, and of course, our outfits probably cost as much as some of their outfits.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
We're definitely more comfortable.
Yeah.
And anyway, they're not just like looking over their head or over their shoulder. They're like turning around doing this, like staring at us. And I mean, I'm like, well, we're here. We never gonna see these people again. And we're thinking like, it's gonna be a problem, or we've upset somebody or whatever.
You didn't have a collared shirt on.
This like beautiful lady, and you could tell she's put together, and she had like gold bracelets and rings and
Pearls.
You could tell that she was really put together. And she just gets up, and I'm thinking, oh God, here we go. And she walks up and she said, "Where are you guys from?" And I said, "We're from Alabama." She said, "Oh my goodness." And she sits down and just pulls up a chair and sits down with us. She's like, "Are you guys filming a TV show?" And I said, "No, ma'am, we're not movie stars, we're rednecks." And she said, "I've always wanted to meet a redneck." And I said, "Well, you're in luck."
Yeah,
All of us.
I said, "You're in luck."
You're a lucky day.
She said, "Please tell me you've got your whistles with you." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Your duck whistles." I said, "You mean duck calls?" And she said, yeah, duck calls. Well, I didn't know what they were called. I thought they were just called whistles. And I said, "Yeah, we got them with us." And she said, will you do it for me?" And I said, "Right here?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I don't really want to draw more attention. We already got it." She said, "Oh, honey, everybody knows you're here." she said, and she stands up and she says, "Attention!" And she starts banging on the cup. She's like, "These guys, they're going to blow their duck whistles for us. Everybody pay attention." So everybody in the whole restaurant just does this and turns around. And I stand up like I'm in Stuttgart, Arkansas at the World Duck Calling Competition. Just blowing the reed out the end of that rich and tone. And when I got done with my little, 30-second, deal, everybody stands up.
It's a golf clap.
There's people coming over like, "Are you guys movie stars? Are y'all with that show Duck Dynasty?" I was like, "No, man, those are like celebrities. We're just rednecks. We're just here." And I was like, "What are you doing here?" I said, "We're duck hunting." "Out here? In the ocean?" I was like, Yeah, in the ocean." I was like, "There's ducks here?" Like, they didn't even know. And I said, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, there's ducks here." And anyway, they were just like the people that we met in Long Island, even the people that we met in the city. We went from Long Island, rode the train into the city as our first time any of us had ever been into like downtown New York. And it was around Christmas time, so they had the ice skating set up and the big Christmas tree. And growing up, I'm a Home Alone kid. I'm watching the movies, and I've always wanted to go, never had the chance. So it was a great time. And again, there's great people from all walks of life, and the diversity in America is what makes it great to me.
I know this is going to be a week-long episode because I'll tell you a kind of a funny duck water story. Is when we picked up the duck water at the factory, first thing we drove in, because I'd ordered
New Philadelphia, Ohio, Steve Hoover, duck water boats. If you ain't got a duck water, you need one.
That's right. And so I got the first 32 ever built. So I ordered this thing.
He likes to throw that up. I had a 28. He had a 32. It's turning into some kind of a measuring competition.
Size matters.
My wife said it does.
So we pull in the parking lot, and this very large vessel is sitting in the yard, and I'm in a 3/4 ton pickup truck, and Lisa takes one look at it. She's sitting beside me, and she goes, "We made a mistake." I said, no, it's going to be fine, dear. So we grabbed that 32, go out and do a test run in the lake with it, run beautiful. Head to Minneapolis to a banquet for Ultimate Waterfowl Challenge banquet. Well, we started calling it the Traveling Circus because everywhere we stopped, every stop sign, a small town in Minnesota, we were the front page of the paper. They sent it to us. The world's biggest duck boat shows up is in Minnesota, and
yeah, lead them about a foot.
And so we're going along, and I wish I could remember which state. Lisa remembers the story. We pull into a filling station, like a convenience store filling station along a divided highway. Pretty good size one. A bunch of cash registers. Well, people started peeling out of this place, and they peeled out, and they peeled out, and they came over, and they're all snapping pictures and asking questions, and we're surrounded. Well, and you could tell the people that worked there and patrons, they had the name tags on, and all the cashiers come out. All of a sudden, the manager opens the glass door. He's screaming. He says, "What are you guys got to tend to cash register?" Like this. And I'm thinking, oh, they're in trouble. And so one of the girls kind of mopes back there, and he said, and he comes over and he says, "How am I going to get my picture with the boat if you?" True story.
When we pulled up,
true story.
When we pulled up, it's the same thing. My wife said the same thing your wife did. We pull up, and New Philadelphia is not. I was expecting it to be like a big city. It's a small town, and Steve and his guys were all there, and had everything set up. And we had spent the night before in the Christmas Story house. So my wife had got her bucket list out of the way. We appeased my son by taking him to the Cleveland Indians game, and
win-win.
The Indians were ahead going into the bottom of the night, so they played the Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn Wild Thing song. You made my heart sing. And so we're all up there having a good time, and we go over to see Steve the next day and get the boat, and we pull in, and it's just sitting there, and like I'd never seen a duck water in person before. He'd sent me pictures, and I've just never seen one in person. And I pull up, and Jennifer says, "We're gonna need a bigger truck." And man, you couldn't have drove a 16 penny nail up my rear end with a sledgehammer on the way home. Like driving down the interstate, the boat is literally as wide as a lane of traffic, and I'm 10 and 2 all the way home, like, driving Miss Daisy. I mean, I'm scared to death. And all jokes aside, like since then we've driven it all over the country, but I was just so worried that something was going to happen. It got dark, and we stopped and got a hotel. And for me,
that's a big deal.
Rare.
Yeah,
that's rare.
Yeah. Finding a parking spot for that isn't easy either.
Oh yeah. Finding a parking area.
Yeah, that's right.
Not a parking spot, but a parking lot.
When you pass a tractor trailer, and you're longer than they are, because you take your truck
sticking out,
that boat, the tongue of the trailer, that big jack plate, that great big motor. You're a train out there.
It is a different deal, and if you think you got some crazy looks in Maine and up that eastern corridor, look, let me tell you something. Drag it bad boy to the Bahamas or to Miami. There's not a whole lot of duck waters. Even the Coast Guard will stop you and ask you what you're doing down there.
You were talking about going fast, and the Coast Guard talking to you. I've spent a lot of my career in law enforcement. Well, I launched it in a town called Lubac, and we had out whale watching on a weekend. So we went out, and I'd seen because Border Patrol patrols there, and the Coast Guard patrols there. I saw the Border Patrol, a Zodiac, a big Zodiac with big twins on it. Mm-hmm. And so it came time, Lisa and I headed back, and we zoomed back to Lubac and loaded the boat, went back to the house. Next day we said, let's go do that again. That was fun. Let's go back out. And some friends of ours, we told about it, and they were going to go with us. I can't remember which ones it was, but anyway, they hopped in. We went out this time. Border Patrol comes along, and the guy waves to me and goes like this. So I pull up to him. He says, we saw you yesterday. We wanted to see the boat. And I was like, well, why didn't you just come over and say hi? He says, we took off after you when you headed back to Lubac, and you were pulling away from us. We had this thing wide open. He says, we ain't touching that thing. He says you are walking off and leaving us. He says we wanted to just see what this thing. We knew it was you, but he says we wanted to get a look at it.
Yeah. We got pulled over with 10 people in the boat, and enough luggage and food to last a week, literally. And souvenirs and everything that we brought over there, fishing rods and tackle boxes and that kind of stuff. And we're running 58 miles an hour according to the Coast Guard. And we got pulled over because we didn't have our ship shore radio on, and they were trying to get in touch with us. But it's just one of those things that it just it was kind of a hindrance at the time, and they were just as nice as they could be. And I thought it was just going to make us a little late to get back home, but it started something like this. So
if we go to the Bahamas, then I'm just going to sit back and get a cold drink. Driving my boat, okay?
We can do it.
No, I'm just,
we can do it.
Don't tempt us.
I'm telling you, I can do it. I can do it. I highly recommend that trip.
No, it sounds good
for anybody.
I want to take the big old boat and take it through the haulover anyway.
Well, that's just about going to wrap up another episode. But before we close, I'd like to remind you to go to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify and click like, share, and subscribe. Send us a comment. Let us know if you've got a story you'd like to dive beak first into right here on Quack and Smack Podcast with TC Duck Club. I'm Skylar Ray.
I'm Keith Talbert.
I'm Rod Merritt.
He's the Eider pro. We're just amateurs. He's the pro. Everybody's got to have heroes. Y'all stay with us because we're going to keep killing them.